Alright, so by the time I post this video, I believe 1 week, maybe even 2 weeks have gone by since Arknight Endfield have released. And a lot of content creators, a lot of great content creators out there have made great opinions, even great criticisms about the game. Some not so great, but some great nonetheless. But there is one thing I feel like every content creator out there are missing, especially when they play Arknight Endfield, especially when they deal with the factory. A safety helmet, a hard hat. Nobody out there is wearing a safety helmet while playing Endfield. So I like to be the first. Maybe I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't look through every content creator out there, but I like to be the first to wear the hard hat. I like to apply it as my safety as we go into the deep, dark hellhole called Arknight Endfield Factory. I mean, gacha game. I mean, whatever it could be. Okay, so again, I might not be very articulate about my choice of words, but I will try my best and I'll give my review and thoughts about a few things in Arknight Endfield. So I begin with the things like that I don't really have to talk much, like the story, the exploration, the combat, one about the gacha system, but most importantly about the AIC factory system, part where we all love. And without further ado, let's begin. So we can begin with the story, and I feel like there is not really much to be said here. I think everyone can agree to the consensus that the story is not really well written. So, there's that. Like, I can't complain. I mean, not to say I can't complain, but there's not really much I can add on. So I'll leave the story as that. Okay, let's talk about one of the biggest points everyone can agree on about Endfield. The exploration. To be more precise, the world building, the world exploration, the graphics. I think it's an absolute cinema. I think it's an absolute eye-gasm because no matter where you go, there is beautiful things to see around the map. Especially if you start off going to Wuling, think how they depict all the areas. It is very, very beautiful. I think there is really not much to dispute about this. I am not sure how Hyperglyph did it, but yeah, the environment, the ambience, everything is just beautiful. So there's really not much to dispute about this. One thing I like to complain about the overworld exploration, to be more precise, the zip lines. Let's see, do I have any zip lines near me? One thing I like to complain about the overworld exploration, and I think they'll be fixed in future patches, so that is not need to be worried about. You know how you can access all the UIs while you're not in the zip, while you're just normally walking around? The moment you are in a zip line, there's no UI you can access. There's a few buttons there to control where you move, but you can't even open map. I wish they can at least let us open map so that we can know where we're going, especially if, in the future we place even more zipline around. It's just a very minor complaint, but there's that. Next up, another thing I won't really talk too much about is the combat system because, truthfully speaking, I don't fully understand the combat yet. So I'll try to keep it brief. So as a mostly PC keyboard gamer, I feel it does feel funny at times, but that is really just my issue for playing games like League of Legends, Xenoblade Zone Zero, and Valorant and all that. Now, what all these have in common is that we have our typical WASD key for movement, but most of those games, except for League of Legends, you mostly move your mouse. But most of these games, at least you still use Q, W, Q, E, and R to, use your combat skills. Maybe not your character, but other character combat skill. But for this game, it's kind of stick to 1, 2, 3, and 4 for your character's combat skills. Again, this is a very minor issue. Like, it can be fixed with a key binding. So that was that. Now, the more nit and grit, I would say, about the combat, it will be something that I believe Genshin Impact and WoW have suffered similarly, which is how the enemies always scatter, and that if you want to gather, group them together so that you can deal with AoE much more easier, it's very difficult to do so, right? But maybe that's just a me problem. I think there are ways to group in this game that I'm still not aware of, so I'll leave it as that. Now, one thing great I would say about the combat system, especially starting off with weaker gears and weapons, is that I mean, not to say the combat per se, but the end game mode is that there is no end game mode at the moment. I believe there's be something called the umbral moment, something like that. But you know, there is no pleasure at the moment. There is no like, you know, I guess Genshin equivalent of Abyss Spiral or MOC in Hunger Star or you know Arknight version of what do we call it, like CC, contingency contracts. So yeah, double C right there. But yeah, these are all seasonal end game modes, many of which have actually been out since their first patch. And I think that's the best part about that's a cool thing about Arknight's Endfield, is that when you start off the game, there's no end game modes. Literally, it's just you experience story, experiencing the world, and having a chill time. Quote unquote chill time, because yes, understandably, a lot of people have frustrations about the number of things you can do or you should do when a game launches. But you know, it's a problem like many games do have. You know, how they burst you with a bunch of things to do. But yeah, you can say Enfield kind of have it worse. But yes, that is it for the combat. I think not really much I can talk about more. All right, next time I'd like to talk about the gacha. So I think this is where everyone usually have pain points about. For me, it is, again, as I mentioned in my first video, it's not really the system itself that I might have an issue with, but it's the pool income. To be more precise, the stable, recurring pool income we have. So at the moment, yes, there is no end game, no seasonal end game. But at the moment, without a seasonal end game, this is a slight negative of it, is that your only source of income, recurring income, it is your weeklies, which give you 500 overbills and max, which is only one pool, and your dailies, which is on total, like, okay, it's not shown, but you get total 200 pools, and in 1 week, it is like 1,400 overbills, which is under 3 pools. So combine that with the weekly, you only get like under 4 pools in a week. And considering how I believe Endfield follows a similar 5-week or 6-week cycle, we can easily see like in the future, people will suffer from, you know, lack of pool income and things like that. Now things might change, you know, that the end game might be coming soon and all that. So hopefully the end game will really boost up. I think one more thing I'd like to talk about the gacha, particularly it's more of a QOL thing. It is that so this game, you actually have a lot of things you have to collect. You know, it's not just your dailies or weeklies. You know, you would go on a map to collect the Albert recycling centers, or maybe you want to farm some ores, or maybe farm some very few resources. At some point, you know, with too many things to remember, you eventually forget some of them. The worst thing to forget, and it actually did happen to me, I actually missed one of my dailies. Just once, so there's that. But it still kind of sucked that I missed on that 200 overbills, considering that, you know, pool economy at the moment is also really, really bad. So one QOL I hope the game have, I hope the game have, it is something, if you ever played Stella Sora, they kind of have the system where you finish everything, you finish the minimum bare minimum to complete the dailies, like spending stamina, interacting with characters, things like that. And you completed the dailies quest, but you forgot to claim the reward. What the game does, what Stella Sora does, is it helps you claim the reward on the next day in your mailbox. I kind of wish the game does that, because, you know, we have a mailbox system here. Just in case we ever forget to claim our dailies, the mailbox can, you know, back us up. This is not just an issue native to Enfield. A lot of gacha games kind of have this issue. I wish they do implement. Now, the cream of the crop of this video, and the reason why I'm wearing a trusty helmet, the AIC. I personally think this is the best thing they have ever done, Hyperglyph have ever done. Because, oh my god, it actually sparked insight on me. Like, I never thought I'll be interested in playing a factory game, because yes, I've seen a lot of gameplay on Factorial. I've seen some gameplays of Satisfactory, but I never really like got into it, or like I never really got interested into it. But to be fair, like I didn't spend the money to buy them, which I think they're pretty much cheap at Steam anyways. But regardless, I gave this a try and I fully love it. I think it's uh I think it's awesome that I have to rack up my brain to think of the best optimal thing. Now, of course, if you've seen here, this is not the most optimal setup here, but we are getting there. I'll show a more cleaner setup up here. But yeah, it is actually way more fun than I thought. The satisfaction you get by optimizing your factory, making things more clean, and make producing more and more things. Um, for your end game grind gear and things like that. So I think it's a really, really cool system. There's of course a few issues with it. Like for example, if you maybe compare it to Satisfactory or Factorial, it's a really, really dumbed down version of either games. Like I believe Satisfactory there is 9 phases or 9 milestones, if I'm not mistaken. And like each milestone you go, the difficulty just ramps up higher and higher, which makes your creative thinking you gotta like double your creative thinking more and more. I believe in Enfield the limit as of now we are kind of at like only like difficulty 2 or 3. I mean like milestone 2 or 3 of Satisfactory. Now one big advice I want to have about the AIC system, it is try to learn yourself. Like try to tinker with everything yourself. No matter how messy it is, as long you got a functioning system, yeah, try to build things yourself. Even if it's messy, you can fix up later and on. You eventually figure it out. You'll fix things to be more cleaner. Like this is even not my most clean setup, but I know I can definitely improve on it. Obviously, they talk about the 18 of the battery per cycle, things like that. So yeah, we don't need to worry too much about that. You don't have to worry too much about that. Just play the game at your own pace. There is no end game. There is nothing like urgent to chase at the moment. So that's one cool thing. Try not to rely on blueprints too much. Bring out your own thinking helmet, your own creative juice. But yeah, I actually see so much potential in the AIC system. But let's talk about one more thing that I think that AIC lacked. It kind of goes back to the gacha thing about, there is less income stream. I think I believe there's not even a single way you can earn ore barrels or even weapon arsenals doing the AIC. Yeah, aside from maybe claiming some rewards and tutorials, that's it. Which is kind of a bummer because I believe like this game mode should have a way to, promote AIC. Promote AIC? I mean, reward players for building AIC and things like that, collecting resources, like not just the high-end gears, but even any random things. And we can exchange it for gifts. We can do it an exchange box per week, and they'll give us old barrels, things like that. Why not add more income source with the AIC? Now, of course, that can be added on later because I know if they add it on the start, people will just start off to go optimizing, or even worse, like just rely on blueprints and call it a day. Now, another thing I like to talk about AIC. I think there's a lot of potential ways for this game mode to be fun. This factory AIC to be fun. Another thing to, I guess, cover that game is missing, it is, what do you call it? A sandbox mode, like Minecraft. Yeah, like Minecraft, you can put up the creative mode and you can do whatever wacky build you want and come up with whatever wacky ideas and then make blueprints out of it. This way, you won't disrupt your whole factory line, while you can go to a separate sandbox mode to think up more creative things. I think it's also important so that one, you don't break up your things. Two, it is blueprints. It's much easier to probably make blueprints in that system. But yeah, this is the first time I actually play a factory game. It's actually really, really fun. I don't think I've ever played anything similar. Minecraft, I could say I played Minecraft before, but although I tried big builds before, I actually never tinkered with Redstone. I believe Redstone is the most similar thing. Redstone and minecarts is the most similar thing to these factory games. But again, I am not a Redstone tinkerer because I am terrible at those kind of things. Now, yes, the tutorial mode, right? It was quite ass, but I think as of recent patches, they let us skip everything. And I did. I kind of skip everything and I just go with the flow and try to learn how to build it myself. I believe that is the best way how you can enjoy the AIC is to, again, I'm not sure how many times I've repeated this, but figure it out yourself. And by figuring out yourself, you can actually get a feel on whether or not you enjoy this game mode. And if you enjoy this game mode, I think you'll be here for the fun. I think you'll be here to ride for the Endfield ride. So yeah, that is it, I guess, for all my thoughts on Arknight's Endfield. I feel like again, one of the best things Endfield have, it doesn't have a limited seasonal endgame mode. Wait, I say this earlier, right? Yeah. So there's no rush to do anything, which is very, very cool. I guess that is the rush of trying to grind premium currency for those that trying to pull for limited characters. But yeah, aside from that, it is very, very enjoyable for me. I really, really enjoyed playing Arknight Endfield, and I am definitely here for the ride. This is just my thoughts on specifically Endfield. And yeah, I hope you get something out of it. Let me know down in the comments on what do you think. Is the helmet cool, or should I, wear the helmet every time I play from now on? Maybe every time I stream. But yeah, aside from that, that's it for the video, and I'll see you next time.